sure the ones I have.
Welcome to the North College Hill City Council meeting for September 6th, 2022. As we always do, we will stand for prayer, and then we will do the Pledge of Allegiance as well. God our Father, we are all your servants. We trust in your mercy and love. We trust also in your guidance. Direct the meetings of this council of North College Hill to make good decisions for all the people who live in our city. Give all the members of this council wisdom and insight to know what is best for our city. Help us to be fair and just in all our decisions. Bless us all to do the very best we can. With your help and guidance, we pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't know where that came from. All right, again, good evening, everyone. Mr. Hedger, will you please call the roll?
Dukestein,
Present.
DeWald,
Here.
Underwood,
Present.
Alexander,
Here.
Zorb,
Here.
Blythe,
Here.
Anderson.
Sorry, here.
All right, before we get to the agenda, just a couple of things. First, I do want to publicly express our condolences to Police Chief Ryan Tran at the passing of his mother 3 weeks ago now.
I believe so.
And then I do want to publicly congratulate Cheryl Long on her appointment and vote to be the city manager for the city of Cincinnati, a former city administrator here in North College Hill. So I thought that was pretty awesome. All right, we do have tonight's agenda.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
if I could, I'd like to amend the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
We have these fine folks here who would like to speak, and rather than to make them sweat it out and wait for their actual turn to talk, if we could get them on the top of the agenda. That was a motion.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
I'll second that motion.
So I'm just going to call it amend agenda to allow public participation before communication. Does that work?
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, motion by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Anderson to amend tonight's agenda to allow public participation before the communication. Any discussion? Please call the roll, sir.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay, we need a motion to accept the agenda.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda as amended.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Anderson to approve tonight's amended agenda. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. You have minutes from our last council meeting on August the 1st.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald,
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
I'll second that.
Motion from Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Anderson to accept the minutes from 8-1. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move to our first public participation for the evening. Does the group have a spokesperson? You could please take the lectern, give your name and address, please.
Cheryl, 1803 Dallas Avenue. I'm representing North College Hill Senior Center. I guess everybody knows they closed, and we got a whole bunch of seniors that got kind of put out in the cold. We have a volleyball team with no place to play, and they had a bingo once a week and poker once a month, and we just don't have anything. I'm just trying to find somewhere in North College Hill where we can get in and, just have a practice volleyball, and seniors could have a bingo and different things that they do. They had bunco and poker tournament once a month, and if we just real quick, like, we just got put out in the cold.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. DeWald.
I understand your frustration. I myself, as a board member, didn't find out about it probably a few days before you all did. And a vote was taken with the board. And because there was no one to take Brandy's place, we decided that it should close. However, on a higher note, I've been contacted by our comprehensive plan group who wants to take a look at that building. They would like to sit down with a couple of the board members. And I don't believe you have an email, so that's why you didn't get it. I just sent it out before I left here. So if you could give me your phone number, I could talk with you about that. We could meet with them. They want to take a tour of the building. And I find that hopeful. I don't know that they've got any solid plans, but they are a forward-thinking group.
Yeah, if we could just get in there and use the auditorium part of the building or
Right,
something like that. I mean, I would like to see the city take it over if they could.
right.
But the seniors just need somewhere to go. And it's
Absolutely, right. So I don't know what the answer is at this point. And I know it was devastating because I just found out this evening that you all only heard the day before. So I don't know how to even address that situation.
Yeah. Anything that you could do would be appreciated.
I'm working on it. It's going to be a slow process. It's not going to be a quick close. It's not going to be as quick as it closed. Let's put it that way. It's going to take a little while to get things moving. So, but what I'll do is I'll stay in email contact with the folks that I've emailed and keep them abreast of any updates that come along.
Okay, I'll give you my phone number and everything.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, Mike.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. DeWald, do you have access to the calendar of events or anything
For the senior
center?
No, I do
Prior to
not.
closing? Does anyone have is there a calendar or something of when you're scheduled? Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I do know that Brandy, the director, has another full-time job. So I will try to reach out to her in an evening, of course, not tonight, it'll be too late, and see what information I can get from her. I do, like I said, I do have a key for access. I just need to get permission from her to have the access, but I don't have access for public participation. That's a whole different level. I just have
Mr.
access
President.
to get in there and show it to somebody, I guess. And I'm not even sure I have that. I've got to get it from Brandy first, the permission.
Mr. President,
Sorry.
I'll get you next, Ms. Blythe.
I'm sorry, Janice. Janice.
Do you think we would have to pay
Oh.
another membership because we just had
Look.
all paid?
Okay, the microphone is above your head, dear.
We had, if someone else took it over, do you think we would all have to pay a membership over again? Because everybody had just paid a membership for the year.
Yeah, that's a big issue, and I can't even begin to answer that. I'd need a crystal ball.
We just lost that money because some people just paid.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm so
That's
sorry.
all I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, I know, we all know it happened quickly. So, I guess, I'm going to quit talking because I don't know what to say to you guys.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's
That's
fine.
quite all right.
Take your time.
I'm sorry, you guys, I'm so slow.
It's okay.
It's
Take your
fine.
time.
You know, my cane. Like I said, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm so slow, but
Okay, can you pull the microphone closer to your face, please? Okay. Thank you.
yeah. I just want to say, I was in an auto accident with the car running from the police. After I get out of the hospital, I started coming to the center. I got companionship from that. Other than the companionship, I got exercise by playing chair volleyball and fun from playing bingo. And sometimes I'd win, but it didn't matter. It was just the fun. I had playing. I know I said that, but wanted to reinforce it. I know Brandy did a lot. I understand, she's not there, but I just want, wish that they'd find the fundings to let it stay open. In closing, I just want to say, ask for you to help. Please keep the senior center open.
Thank you.
I need help.
Mr. President,
Mr. Mosby.
I would actually had put something in this in my report briefly, but certainly for those who are here, I did want to say that I know Ms. Heisel came by earlier today, and as we talked, one of the things that I did explain to her is that the mayor and I have been working with Brandy to look at certain options. So I did want to assure all of those who came out tonight that we are looking at alternatives for you. I can also tell you that when I talked to the Hamilton County Auditor, they absolutely said that you know, the money that we get from the levy, that money does have to be used for the benefit of the seniors. So as long as that money is coming to us, that money is going to benefit you. So how that money is going to benefit, we're not sure yet, but it will. So I did want to assure each of you that that will happen.
Ms. Blythe, I'm sorry I skipped you. My apologies.
Yes, I'm Larry Blythe, and at the time of this meeting, I'm not sure why your center closed, so there may be people watching or people watching in the future that might want to know why the center closed. Can someone get on the mic and explain why the senior, someone from council or administration, explain, because people will be watching this eventually, and then they'll go, well, what's going on? Why did it close? So,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
My name's Lois Heisel. I met with him today. You're not the only one. We want to know why it closed too, okay? I understand Brandy has to get a job and move to, make more money, whatever. She did a great job down there, okay? But that's pretty bad when you have to close the seniors and they don't have a place to go to, okay? And the board, come on, the board could have came down there face to face and talked to us, and we had questions to ask them. They're not going to answer the questions. Please.
Miss Lois, I'm on the board for the senior center, and we found out about it shortly before you guys found out
But
about
I'm
it.
not I'm not talking about you, okay?
No, that's okay. Because I'm a part of the board for the senior center. Right, and we were given the option to come in and take over her job and hire somebody and train them to do her job, but none of us knew how to do her job. How could we possibly hire someone and bring them in and train them?
Well, we didn't even know she was looking for a job, period.
We didn't either. And you know what? I'll venture to say she probably didn't know she was looking for a job.
Brandy was a hard worker, okay?
Absolutely.
She did a lot of jobs that when the bus driver wouldn't show up, she had to take the bus out, pick up the people, and drop them off. She did a lot of things.
She did, and she did maintenance for the building. That was way above her.
And faxing. How we found out on a Thursday, the bingo, Brandy came out and said, I'm sorry to tell you guys, but we're closing up. And we said, what? They faxed. They faxed her.
They what?
They faxed her over the phone.
Oh.
To tell us that they was closing, okay?
Oh.
So if you got a heart in you, please keep the seniors open for the seniors. I want to thank you guys for giving us a chance to talk.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you.
So we'll work on getting to the bottom of it. And I know Ms. DeWald and Mr. Mosby are committed to look at what our options are to provide you with services.
Anything you could do would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you folks can stick around for more, or you're allowed to leave if you'd like.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Look out for us, okay? Okay.
I wanted to get Jerry's phone number.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We're going to see what we can do. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. That's it. Keep our fingers crossed.
This is new to us, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know. It was, we were as devastated as you were, and the other community members that never.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It was what?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
I didn't hear it, but I understand.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you. Your outfit's beautiful.
Hi.
What's going on?
I want to make sure at least one of you have my card, just in case.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome.
Just sit there.
Okay.
I'm tired. Let's go home.
Got a portable air conditioner.
So what I'll do is, once I hear from the email group, and then I'll call you and let you know. Would you want to, if we can comprehend
One of mine, or you have
would you want to be a part of that, just to talk with them? Okay. because I know you've been there for a long, long time.
It doesn't.
Good deal. Thanks, Jerry.
Wow.
Thank you, sir.
Sad.
All right, next item on the agenda is communication. Mr. Hedger, when you're ready.
Sorry, we have the mayor's court report for both July and August, was emailed and also provided you in your packet for today. And then also received communication from the Hamilton County Conservation Board. That was provided by Mrs. Zorb, it looks like for native tree and shrub sale. That's all for communications.
Ms. Zorb, do you have any details on the tree?
I have an
Yeah.
email I could forward to you.
Is that the same one that I have printed out here?
Probably.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually, it might even have passed by this point. I can't remember the dates.
Oh, here it is. Orders accepted until August 29th and plants picked up on September 10th.
Yeah. Missed that one.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. All right, next up is committee reports, starting with City Community Development and Recreation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We last met on, let me pull up the date. Finally have my notes pulled up. August 8th, 2022. Ms. Clear started at the meeting talking about the Wise Park renovation and the ceremony that was this past weekend. She was just giving details on how that planning was going, and the rededication was amazing. So it was time well spent on her part. And I know she didn't get a lot of, there were a lot of speakers, but I didn't hear anybody thank her. So I want to make sure that she gets thanked right now, because I know how much work she put into that renovation, and I know how much work she put into the rededication of it. So I want to make sure that she knows she's appreciated by me and by the rest of council, because I know everybody else feels the same way. So thank you, Ms. Claire. After that, we discussed code enforcement. We already had Chief Fells and Chief Tran there for another topic that came up, so it was just easiest to talk about it then while everybody was there. A code enforcement task force was started, which we met last week as well. So in ad hoc reports, I can give an update on that. But at the City Community Development and Recreation meeting, we just talked about what was needed from a task force, who all would be on it, why it's necessary, when it would meet, all of that kind of stuff. We then talked about firework legislation. We decided that we are going to present, the committee is going to present to council new legislation that would be adopting what the rest of Ohio is doing pretty much, and not having any further restrictions from that. So that will be coming soon. I just need Mr. Dieters to get that to me. We then talked about, we then had a report, sorry, from we then had a further report from Ms. Clear. She sent that in an email. We then had an update about the Tree City USA board from Ms. Zorb. She gave us an update on the Christmas tree lighting venue. For now, it's still going to be in front of Perkins, but they're working on getting that possibly changed if the tree can be planted, or possibly changed for next year. And then we also talked about getting the 2 signs put up for the Tree City USA signs, and I know both of those were put up, so we're very excited about that. We then had a report about the comprehensive plan from Mr. Mosby. He just gave us an update that it had begun its 2nd stage. They're looking, sorry, I'm just reading my notes. Yeah, they had begun their 2nd stage. They had mixed results from all the surveys, and they're putting together, it looks like they're putting together a report for that. We also talked about, there's still no funding yet for the LED lights on Galbraith. but he's still looking into that. One of the street lamps was taken out in front of Buddy Rogers. It was broken, and Duke is going to be replacing that. So there was an update on that. We're still waiting for the street sweeper schedule. We also talked about the construction that's going to be happening on Hamilton. We kind of talked about dates for that and how a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and the CAC is still in the works to benefit the businesses that are going to be affected there. We also talked about, Mr. Mosby gave us an update on new signage for the city entrances, just making sure that they're clearly seen, they're big enough size for everybody to be able to read them, all that kind of stuff. And he said he's looking into that. I'm still waiting for, I just gave them an update at the committee meeting. I'm still waiting for Mr. Dieters as well for the Homeowners Assistance Fund sheet. Everything in that committee is kind of at a hold right now because I'm just waiting for legislation for Mr. Dieters. So I promise I'm still asking him, still bugging him. If I could write legislation, I would. I promise. I just can't. I don't know how. So, and we adjourned at 7:34.
Thank you. Next meeting? It's the 12th, your next meeting?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Yes, our next meeting is next month. It's the 12th at 6:30 here in council chambers.
Thank you. Next, budget and finance.
We had a couple corrections to the minutes. Mr. Mosby talked about the tax duplicate and that it is a regular resolution. Nothing's different. There was a couple of council members that asked about some of the properties and, you know, those people being in them, are they occupied or not? We had a quarterly report, and it was our first quarterly report that was quarterly as opposed to monthly. We are going to reconvene at the delivery so we can have a more informative report in the month of September. We talked about that, and the administration is working on that. It's a slow process to try to get where we need to be to keep all parties informed and up to date. We talked about the senior levy. The committee agreed that the resolution was time to be moved to council. We talked about the building renovations. At this time, there's not much for council to do. I know that Mr. Mosby followed up with getting an estimate to try to kind of hone in on, is the building actually usable? Are we going to be able to do something with it? He and I, we've talked but not had an opportunity to go into detail about that. But that's where we were at the meeting. And then in new business, we talked about the revenue account that needs to be added. Annalisa came to talk about recreation, and she has some donations that will be coming in, and she needed a line or place to put those resources, and we talked about that and what we needed to follow through to do so for her. And then the police impoundment lot, there's also a line that is needed to be an allocation to pay the tow trucks so that we can pay forward, just to make sure that we have the running capital to being able to make sure that the impound lot is up and functioning until it builds its own revenue. We went into executive session to talk about the salary of an unclassified employee. We made some progress. And old business, just making sure that we put the expense report that went from monthly to quarterly back on the agenda for September. We adjourned at 9:02 p.m. and our next meeting is September the 12th at 7:30, 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Dukestein.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I do have a question for Ms. Dukestein.
Sure.
You referred to a building that maybe not be, I don't know how you worded it, but like it was not able to be fixed. Is that this building or the senior center building? Do you know?
Oh, remember we had talked about, that was this building? We
Okay,
had talked
this
about
building.
kind of deciding whether or not that there was worth the resources to actually put in this building. We had kind of amongst our committee wanting to have that information before we made any decisions forward. And since you asked that, I did reach out to the Development Corporation so that we can try to get the ball rolling on some of their ideas on what they think should be here, or if there's feasibility for ideas.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Next up is Rules and Public Policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rules and Public Policy meeting was canceled for the month of August. Our next meeting will be September 26th
At 6:30, correct?
at 6:30.
Thank you. Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Safety meeting was canceled for the month of August. Our next meeting will be September 26th at 7:30.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood. Does anyone have any ad hoc reports tonight?
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I was going to speak about the Senior Center, but I think we're pretty well informed now about what's going on, but if anybody has any questions.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
actually, I have a question. So I know there's a levy, right, that funds the senior center. So, and does the city, how does that work?
I'm going to toss it over to Mr. Mosby because I think he mentioned it earlier tonight. I think the city will continue to get the money, but we won't use it until the senior center is up and running. I'm not sure. I'm going to shut up. Thank you, Mr. Mosby.
Mr. President.
Mr. Mosby?
All right. So as Ms. Underwood did say, we have a levy that is currently in effect. That levy must be used for the benefit of the seniors in our community. If we do not present to the Hamilton County Auditor a plan for how we expense that money, then what they would do is, in essence, make a recommendation that the levy be rescinded. So we will be presenting during the budget season, so I'm just letting everybody know, some recommendations that we have in order to make sure that the money is continuing to be spent toward that. And there are a couple of other topics that, while I'm not at liberty to discuss them right now, we will be discussing them shortly.
Thank you, Ms. DeWald. Thank you, Mr. Mosby. Thank you, Ms. DeWald. Ms. Anderson?
Yes, thank you. So the Code Enforcement Task Force met on 9/1. We discussed a lot of stuff. It was a very long meeting. It was a great meeting. We got through a lot of things, and we kind of came up with a lot of good solutions, and there are some things that are just going to take a long time to fix, but we'll get there. First thing we kind of discussed was possibly repealing a current ordinance, which I will be adding to the City Community Development and Recreation Committee agenda for next week, not next month, next week. I think I said next month when I spoke last time. We also talked about making the parking violations more clear, making it, currently it's kind of unclear, so code enforcement isn't sure what they're supposed to enforce, police aren't sure what they're supposed to enforce, and it's just, there's like 4 different laws in 4 different places, and it's kind of confusing. It's all the people involved are doing a great job, but for us it's kind of confusing. So they're working on making that more clear, and we're getting the legislation for that to make that more clear. We're also working on, and I have an email to send to Ms. Zuckstein. I just wanted to give this update first on possibly adding a new line item to help fund code enforcement, basically, and we have a plan for that as well. We also talked about possibly adopting the International Property Maintenance Code more closely. We currently do adopt that, but with a lot of caveats. We talked about adopting that more closely instead of making so many caveats that make it so confusing. And a couple other things were discussed, but I don't want to give updates on them quite yet because we're still figuring out the details on it. And we will be meeting in October, just the members of the task force. That way we're not breaking any Open Meetings Act or anything. And so in October, I will have an update for you guys on where we're at then. Thank you. That's all.
Mr. President.
Ms. Dukestein.
Ms. Anderson, I thought when when the meeting resumed with the police chief and we had talked about the fireworks and there was some small discussion about the parking, that the focus was going to shift in terms of code enforcement on the buildings and kind of dilapidated spaces or, grass and that. And the only reason I felt important enough to bring it up is because he had talked about the enforcement being on code enforcement versus the police and the hierarchy of items that needed to happen with what the policing or the police already have as a responsibility.
Yeah, so I mean the code enforcement don't have the ability to write tickets. So I mean the police have a lot of things that they need to do, but we cannot make it that the code enforcement is in charge of giving a ticket for somebody who's parked on the street incorrectly. So that still falls legally under police. The way we kind of discussed it was if it's on public property, it's the police. If it's on private property, it's code enforcement. And so we're just working on making that more clear in our legislation. And I mean, so yeah, we're gonna have not a goal, but what am I trying to think of? May have a vision or maybe a focus that we want code enforcement to have for a year, but we still have to have that legislation in there for parking. So if somebody's parking on their lawn, that would be against code, blah, 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 and code enforcement, that would still fall under code enforcement. Where if somebody's parked in front of a driveway, but they're on the public street, that would fall under police. So we're just trying to make sure that all of that stuff is clear. Even if they do have bigger fish to fry, we still have to make sure our legislation is clear.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. President?
Ms. Zorb.
I have two very brief updates. The next ICRC meeting is this Thursday, September 8th, and they'll be discussing bringing a new city into their midst, and also a Tree City USA update. We had a pawpaw harvest. So if anyone would like to try a pawpaw, you are more than welcome.
How many do you have?
I think I have about 4 or 5, but I can get my hands on more. I know where there's more. Apparently they are, and I don't want to sound disparaging. They're supposed to be a cross between a banana and a mango, but without the threadiness that you can sometimes get in a mango. So it doesn't have that. That's where the creamy texture comes in of the banana. I think I need it to be in a recipe and not just eating it by itself. That's where I am with it.
And it is a native tree, correct?
It is. It is our state of Ohio's fruit tree.
Thank you, Ms. Zorb. Any other ad hoc reports? Hearing none, we'll move on to the administrative reports. Evening, Madam Mayor. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'm happy to be back. It's gone for a little while, but thank goodness. I don't think sitting in the house for that long, it drove me crazy. I'll just be the first to say. So with that being said, I would like to thank the Jewish Federation, along with CIC, and Carolyn Johnston and the students from Cincinnati State, because I'm not sure if you knew this, but the design plan for the rededication of Wise Park, I had mentioned to Dan Brooks that they have a program there where their students can, because I know they did someone home over on Gloria, her backyard. So they presented several different designs for the park, and seems like one of them won. So I wanted to thank them for their work and diligence and the rededication for the park, because it really looks nice. And Sunday was nice as well. There is a cleanup day this Saturday from 9 to 12 here. If you want to come out and participate, that would be great. We'll be here. Mr. Mosby, are they doing pizza again? I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Okay. We'll feed you before and give you a meal afterwards. Also, there's a fall. Did you have something?
What is Saturday's date?
It is the 10th.
Thank you.
There's a fall festival, October 1st, from 1 to 5. It'll be in the Goodman Business District, so it'll be more like a block party. So, you know, it'll be fun activities for the kids. I hear there will be inflatables. If someone wants to rent a table, I believe the tables are $20 per table. The other thing, the school district, as we all know, they have a homecoming every year. This year, they reached out to me and they wanted to partner. I don't know if Ms. Clear sent the email out to council, but the school district, you know, they wanted to try to bridge the gap between with the school and the city. So if anyone is interested in participating in the parade this year, I can give you the contact information, and you can participate in the homecoming parade. That'll be on Saturday the 17th. I believe their lineup is at 11:15 at the school, and I think the step-off is at 12. So if you wanted to participate in that, I can give you the information of the contacts for the school. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Any questions for the mayor? Next up is the city administrator's report. Mr. Mosby.
Thank you, Mr. President. This past Sunday, North College Hill celebrated another gym located right here in our commercial business district with the rededication of Wise Park, as was mentioned. Several people came out to commemorate the rehabilitated park, including many from the Jewish community and our former city administrator, now city manager for the city of Cincinnati, Cheryl Long. It was an event to make one proud to be a resident of our historic city. We also marked the conclusion of our biennial audit last month. There were several recommendations that we will be putting in place that will also be presented to council over the next several months. We will also be preparing for our next audit, which will take place next year, so 2023. The state of Ohio will also be conducting that audit. Also, you should have already received the language that will appear on the November ballot for the renewal of the police levy. Since this is a renewal, that means there's no increase to the current 4.9 mils. As you also know, and as we discussed, the North College Hill Senior Services Organization voted to officially dissolve. The executive director, Brandy May, was leaving after serving the organization for over 20 years. Of course, as we saw, I was visited earlier today by one of the volunteers asking what was going to happen now that the organization is dissolving. And I did assure her that I have been in contact with Brandy and that we are looking at alternatives. And as I had mentioned earlier, I also spoke with Hamilton County Auditor, who informed me that the levy will remain in place as long as the funds are used for the benefit of the seniors in North College Hill. At this point, I would like to yield the remainder of my time to Emil Lisnyansky, who is the principal at Envision Group, who is our economic development consultant. Emil will provide a brief overview of the services he is providing to the city and will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mosby. And if technology cooperates, I'll have a slideshow here to pop up on screen. All right, looks like we're in the right spot.
Could I ask maybe have some of these lights turned off? Because for us, well, for me anyway, there's a glare.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me speak this evening. I will be brief since it is extra warm in here. I am Emil Lizniansky, principal with Envision. We were hired by the city this summer to help with the economic development strategy, and on the heels of that, help implement that strategy. So I'll explain what that means as I go through my presentation here. As far as an agenda, I briefly want to cover the relationship of the economic development strategy with the comprehensive plan. I know that's always the first question is, why are we doing two plans at once? What is the division of responsibilities? Are these consultants talking to each other? And the answer is yes, we are, and I'll step you through that. I'll talk a little bit about our timeline and key steps, the initial findings we found out so far, and the next steps, and then I certainly want to reserve times for questions from you all. So just to be clear, when we talk about a comprehensive plan, what was referenced earlier in some of the reports, that's what Urban Fast Forward is doing, and that looks holistically at the community for a 10 to 20 year horizon. Things like parks and rec, neighborhoods, housing, infrastructure, across the entire city limits. When we talk about what my firm is doing with economic development strategy, we're really zeroing in on how do we enhance the municipal tax base. How do we increase property values in our commercial and business districts? And how do we create more jobs in the city and ideally higher paying jobs where we can? So for example, that might mean things like targeted end users, whether that's a commercial retail business or a professional office business. Things like workforce development strategies, incentives on the tax side, and that just doesn't mean from the municipal's tax side, but also working with our county and state partners. Also means public-private partnerships. You guys have a CIC in place, and that's a huge piece. In a lot of communities, I spend a lot of time just helping a community form a CIC and explain those benefits. So we certainly want to fully leverage the CIC in this plan. When we talk about overlap and how these two efforts work together, there's always going to be things that are going to be referenced in both plans, and that's why we're talking, I talk with John Young over at Urban Fast Forward on a weekly basis. We've had a lot of meetings, a lot of Zooms. We're going to be sitting down with some of the same stakeholders. We were with Urban Fast Forward earlier today in Ron with the county and getting a lot of insight from them on how these strategies fit into their programs. So when we talk about land use, infrastructure, zoning, those are all things both our strategies will encompass, and we'll make sure those messaging is consistent. Brief timeline, first 6 months, we're just about to start month 3 here, started around 4th of July. This is the plan development phase, the strategy. Again, a lot of outreach. That's what we're really working on this month, is to get in front of CIC, chamber, businesses, key regional partners. 2023 is really the important part, I consider, is how do we go structure some of these development agreements? How do we work with the CIC, with the chamber to market and promote sites, potentially acquire more properties, get the grants and incentives to make some of these deals happen, to get some of the critical infrastructure we need to attract outside investment. So again, first half strategy, second half implementation. Let's get the work done. Some of the initial findings we found so far in our identify phase. Strengths, there's a lot of them here. I think diversity is first and foremost. That's a unique thing about this community that you don't always see. I think location is strong as far as the central part of the county. We're adjacent to Cincinnati and College Hill, and you see the great momentum in that neighborhood. We're also close to regional freeway access with Ronald Reagan Highway. I think there's a lot of benefits there that we could really sell. I love the scale of this community. First community I worked in Cincinnati extensively was Madera. And while the demographics might be different and some of the buying power, there is still a similarity in terms of scale and how many people are close and walkable to your business district. And that's something I really think we can exploit further here. And I think we have some unique anchor institutions. Clover Nook comes to the front of the list as something that we can really draw on and think about spin-off business development, workforce development, training centers, because that's a unique story that we can tell. And if we're going to look for catalytic tax credits and funding, we're going to have to think big to tell our story and leverage that outside investment. And that's just one that I think has some potential. Opportunities, keeping this positive, rehab and infill redevelopment along Galbraith, where we have already more of a walkable, the bones are in place at the older storefronts. And then longer term, some of the larger properties that are along Hamilton and in the suburban shopping areas. As far as an aspiration, a long-term vision, I certainly think, when we look 10 years down the road, we'd love to be something like College Hill, where you see some of that mixed-use infill development, ground floor retail and apartment, office, or condo up top. That's what we've been hearing so far, and I think our CIC can help get us there. And to ground ourselves in reality, we do have a limited tax base here. We are a bedroom community. That's never going to completely change. We're always going to lose people during the day that work elsewhere. And we have city staff capacity restraints. You know, Ron wears a lot of hats, does a lot of good work, but it's really public works, public safety, and we don't have a community development department. We don't have economic development on staff. So this is really where the consultants like myself have to come in and help out and make sure we empower Ron and the neighboring jurisdictions to really help out here. So key takeaway, creative partnerships. This isn't just about the city, it's also Chamber, it's also CIC, and we'll be working with them this month to try to run this strategy by them and get their input. I mentioned, you know, data assessment, but a key thing I always like to start with is where are we losing people during the day? Are we gaining people? In Madera, the question always came up, why can't we be more like Blue Ash? Why can't we have a tower and a rec center and all these parks? Well, in Madera, we didn't have enough tax base. We didn't have enough people working in the city. Blue Ash has about 8 people working in the city for every person that lives there. So it's just a different dynamic. When we take the numbers here for North College Hill, 1,700 people employed inside the city limits live somewhere else. So 1,700 people coming in each day. 132 people live and work here, pretty small number. 4,800 people leave every day to work somewhere else, bedroom community. That's almost 3 people leaving every day for the people coming in. That will always be a net loss during the day, but can we help increase the amount of jobs? That's what we're trying to do with this plan in the city. And obviously help increase that number that live and work here. So when I talk about a strategic partnership, that means city, CIC, and chamber working together. Obviously, some of these are obvious. City is going to be your regulatory, your zoning, your permitting, your approvals. City owns public infrastructure and works with county and ODOT in some cases on infrastructure projects. Grants and incentives largely will be through the CIC. Oftentimes, grants are required to be from a public agency. Marketing and promotion is one that's probably going to be shared amongst all the entities, but the city, I'd say initially from what I've seen, has the best website, the best social media, the best messaging. The fact that we have this on video now is a good thing for transparency. The CIC is a unique animal because it can do some innovative things as far as property acquisition and management. All the sunshine laws and public disclosures aren't required as they're going through a development solicitation for a certain property or acquisition. So that gives us a quasi-public entity that can really go and assemble some catalytic sites. We also, when we talk about CICs, we like them to help out with that new business attraction, because when we talk about a chamber, they have dues paid by their existing members. They're not looking necessarily the existing members for, I want to pay dues so you can attract my competitor down the road. But the CIC is a little different and they can get more active in that arena. So chamber, existing business retention and expansion, business operations support, hiring, and can help out certainly connecting businesses to workforce development agencies and partnerships. Next steps, this month we're really honed in on stakeholder engagement. We have a whole bunch of events. We're going to be tag teaming a workshop with Urban Fast Forward on the comp plan, so that'd be a comp plan / economic development engagement opportunity. Like I said, we're talking with them regularly and making sure our message isn't getting confused as we meet with people. October, we're going to be sharing some draft recommendations with our steering committee. November, we're going to look at the detailed action steps, what I call the implementation piece. Who does what tools are we using, what grants are we going after, what incentives might we structure. In December, we're going to wrap this all up so Ron has a product that he's comfortable with and we can start implementing next year. And next year is hit the ground running. Grants, incentives, public-private partnerships, developer procurement, regulatory tools. There might be some things we need to clean up on zoning, things like that, infrastructure projects. That's all part of the equation. And I'll tell you today, the county was impressed with everything we had on the plate. They identified probably 4 or 5 programs that we can be chasing next year and will time up well with our contract here. So with that, end of my rant, I'd like to open it up to questions from you all. Yes, ma'am.
When you say leverage the tax base, what do you mean by that?
Well, so leverage your tax base, that means you have people that pay property taxes, which largely go to the county and the school district, but there's some that goes to the city. And then you have income tax base. So jobs in the city that are, these people are paying income tax to the city. So we want to fully make sure that we're enhancing that, increasing it, so more jobs in the city, better jobs in the city, and a more higher and productive use of the land. So that means improvements to the land, improvements to real property.
Okay. And then you said the tax incentive. Is that the CRD and the tariffs and the abatements to get developers attracted to this area?
Yeah, CRA is one that you see a lot of times, community,
CRA, right.
Community
I'm sorry.
reinvestment area. No, absolutely. It's alphabet soup when it comes to incentives and all those things. That's one option, property tax abatement on the improved value of property. Tax increment financing, which can be used for infrastructure, in some cases helping support that private development. Looks at leveraging future property tax value increases. That's something you negotiate with the schools. They can be a part of it, or they can be separate. It can be just on the city piece or the county piece. Those are all part of the equation. And then there's also some incentives that are available through innovative financing at the port, which is the region's economic development arm. If you're doing something that's really rises to a regional or state level, something, if you're working with a healthcare project with Clover Nook and something of that nature, maybe the state would get involved in something. Obviously here we're talking more, maybe some office professional and some commercial retail. We're not talking heavy industrial just by the nature of your transportation network
Right.
and location.
Okay.
So I don't want, everything's not on the table, but there's a lot of different options out there.
And you all seek out those opportunities for us?
Yes.
So that developers, when showing an interest, we can present that as a portfolio to, hey, if you develop here.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we'll have an investment prospectus when this project is finished up that says, which is just a fancy way of a marketing brochure, but we also want it to be, the qualitative piece is important, like what you see on the wall. We're engaged, it's a great community, great quality of life, but we have to have the numbers there. We have to have the financials. And there's going to be some types of development, they haven't happened already. So there might be a gap financially to make those things happen. And that's where we have to look internally into our partners to see how we close that gap in a developer's capital stack.
And when you said you met with the county earlier and they were impressed, meaning that the things that you had laid out to kind of bring some of these items to our city, and the ones that you mentioned that I didn't, they were impressed with that? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, they were impressed that we had this thought process, that we have some of these development opportunities and infrastructure enhancements identified preliminarily, and they have some programs that would align with that and help us get those things off the ground. So they pointed to some things on the housing front, and on the infrastructure front, and on the property site and acquisition front that all might be applicable next year for us. So it's a little bit of a what's the first priorities, and that's what we'll be talking about with administration as we wrap this up. But there'll definitely be some chases, some pursuits that'll be worthy pursuits, and they were excited about.
And have we missed all the deadlines for 2022?
I would say probably they were earlier in the year, but that will time up well with this contract because these things will be coming out in the spring, and we will have a strategy in place. We'll have a comp plan that's further along. We'll have public support documents and summaries because that's important. Does the community support your project? They want to know that before they help fund something. Because they don't want a project where a community gets money and then people come out with pitchforks and they give the money back. And that's happened. I've been a part of that, and it's not good. So getting organic community grassroots public input's the right way to do this. And I think we're going to have some things that we can have a good chance of getting funding for next year.
And then curiosity, for those that seek out development before we have these things in place, are they still eligible once they start their development, or they would have to wait till we have these things in place to do the development, take advantage of some of these?
I think if anybody's looking to, if there's a developer that's got a project or a parcel identified, they probably know exactly what they want. And I mean, if that's a good problem to have, they can come knocking and there could be some kind of ad hoc, amendment to zoning or a quick CRA put together, community reinvestment area or TIF, obviously with due diligence on a case-by-case basis in the meantime. So if something comes up soon and somebody wants to strike, I mean, we're going to help them through that. We certainly wouldn't wait because a certain funding source doesn't come till next year. Our scope says implementation isn't until January.
Mr. President. Sorry, go ahead. No, you finish, please.
And then, you said that people that, basically the bedroom theory, or however you worded it, I just don't remember, sorry. This is the people, the people that work here that leverage, versus the business district. So a well-developed business district not only hones in on the people that don't work here and then they come here at night, as they also are leveraging the people that work here that are supporting other businesses. It's like an infinity where it kind of circles back. Is there focus there also?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about some of those retail businesses that people love, and it's ideally some small boutiques, that's tough in the age of online retail and just regional retail agglomeration. But something like experience retail, dining, some things that, I'm sure people would love a coffee shop. We talk about it all the time. Those type of things. For those businesses to work, they really ideally have a daytime population, which might be, people who are staying at home or working from home, might be workforce that work in the city limits, and then nighttime it might be that bedroom community.
Absolutely.
All those rooftops is really a plus. And ideally you want some people coming from neighboring communities, and that'll happen somewhat. But you're right, it can't just be dinner time is money for the restaurants and they don't have anybody trickling in because the numbers just don't work for them.
I literally grew up in a family business that thrived on a business that was located close to the family business that did great. It was a bedroom community. So just wanted to see where your mind was on there. And then my last question, and I'm sorry, it was the grants. You said you have isolated grants or you have not?
Isolated as far as?
Ones that we would be eligible to apply for?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple we talked about today. One thing was we talked about a mini planning grant to do some technical analysis. So we talked about traffic calming improvements in the business district, some things that beautify our streetscape. There is a mini planning grant program that comes out April of every year, and county did confirm that'll be coming back again April 1st. So that would be kind of a next step, a more technical, having a traffic engineer come in, look at things, and to go get then on the heels of that ODOT funding or OKI, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization that distributes federal funds to communities. They really want to see the technical analysis. This piece is good. Yes, we want to do this. This would help build our tax base, but does it work? Is it safe? Does it back up traffic for a mile, or does traffic flow? Those kind of things are important. That was one. The other is called the CDAP, Community and Economic Development something program, assistance program, I think. More acronyms.
Right.
That one's a little broader. That can be physical infrastructure in the right-of-way. It can be certain development projects on private property that have a public purpose and very competitive, but enhance the tax base and benefit low to moderate income populations, because this is money flowing down from the feds through HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to communities like your own. So those were two that jumped up to the top of the list. There's also some formula funds that you guys will be eligible for on the next 3-year cycle. Ron will work with getting some projects identified in this, and those are just some of the initial opportunities. I will say, for those that follow the news, there's a bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed last November. A lot of that money is goes to state governments directly, but then they have programs that trickle down, and MPOs like OKI have programs that increase their funding levels and then offer competitive funding for projects that are generally infrastructure based. So we're talking about things more in the public right away, but there's opportunities there, and we'll certainly highlight those and hope to leverage those as part of this.
Mr. President?
Ms. Anderson?
So I have two questions. First one, so right now I have two questions, but I might have more. When you said the grants, are those things that you're going to identify for us, and then we are then, or not we, but then our administration is then in charge of applying for those? Or are those ones that you or your company will get for us and then we will then have?
So first part, this first 6 months, what we're going to wrap up this December is the identification and prioritization of what we want to chase and what program specifically, how we want to pair each program that we think is a good chase and would be competitive for. Because there's always things you're eligible for but aren't necessarily the best fit. We want to be focused and hone in on 3 to 5, key chases. But first piece this year, identify the project and the program. Next 6 months, first 6 months of next year, that's when we, as an extension of your staff, with your approval and guidance, will go and apply, write those funding grant applications, handle the coordination.
Oh,
so
nice.
that'll be part of our contract, and it's just as important as the strategy. Even more important is implementing the strategy.
Right. Okay, great. That's good to know. Okay. Second thing, and this is kind of a question for you, Information Mosby. So you mentioned one of the important parts of the city aspect of it is the zoning. And I know that we've had a lot of issues with our zoning board recently. I guess they haven't really been meeting and it's been hard for people to get in contact with them. Have you been able to get in contact with anybody from our zoning board or zoning committee?
We have not scheduled anything with zoning committee yet. but
Okay.
we
Is
can-
there a current list of who is on the zoning board or commission or committee?
Are you referring to the planning commission?
I have no idea, whatever
Okay.
our zoning is.
Well, there is the planning commission, which does meet on the third Tuesdays of every month.
Have they been meeting though?
Yes, if they don't have an agenda, then they don't meet. In other words, if there's nothing for them to meet about, then
So
they
is
don't
that
meet.
like, so if I wanted to do something that I needed to get zoning approval for, is that the committee or the board that I would go to?
Yes, but there is also another committee, which is the Board of Zoning Appeals. Which is why I wanted to make sure that I clarified. That committee meets, that board meets on an as-needed basis, and they listen to appeals from businesses or from petitioners who may want to make an exception for some project that they're doing within the city.
So I'm confused. So there are two different groups that both approve zoning?
One is the planning commission that would basically approve the plan for the city. The Board of Zoning Appeals is where people go when their project does not fit within the already approved plan. If it's something that is an exception, then they have to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So then how do people get in contact with the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Through Bill Knight, which is our Buildings and Inspections Officer.
So they have to contact Bill and then he then calls a meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I have one more question. Could you forward this to Mr. Mosby, your presentation, so it can be sent to council?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Liznanski.
Perfect. It's a tough Ukrainian name. There's only 13 letters in it. 11. It's actually 11, but thanks so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the Law Director's Report, and Mr. Dieters was not able to be here tonight as he has a conflict when we move to Tuesdays. Next is the Finance Director's Report, and she is not with us either, so we'll go to call of members. And we'll start with Ms. Dukestein.
I just wanted to express my condolences to Chief Tran for the loss of his mom. I also lost my mom this year, and it's not an easy thing. So, and then I want to thank the seniors for coming and showing their support of the senior center, and just the heartfelt communication about preservation and making sure that we as a council and governing body just have a space and place for them. I'm excited about the pawpaw harvest. However, the combination of a mango and a banana sounds pretty gross.
Make bread out of
So,
it.
but my kids are probably pretty open, so please save one for me. And then happy to have Mayor back. Thank you for coming back. I'm glad you're doing well. And then I wanted to thank the Jewish Federation for the rehabilitation of Wise Park. It definitely looks a lot nicer, although it was kind of flooded yesterday from the rain.
It's been more than
It has like a
yesterday.
dip right there on the right side if you're standing in it, or left side if you're on the outside of it. So I hope that doesn't present itself an issue. And then I'm really glad to hear that presentation. It's very helpful to getting our city onward. That is all.
Mr. President,
Ms.
if I
Nichols?
could, when we were doing the hiring for the economic developer, when, there were like 5 or 6 different ones, but what impressed me most about their initial presentation is that they actually took the time to come into the city and they went around to different places. So some of those businesses, like the pictures was in their presentation. So I said, if they took the time to come out to investigate, not just, to ride through to go see what, was there. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yes, and just to just respond to that, people, you guys don't know this side of me, but in an interview, I'm pretty grueling. So if you can survive that, you're pretty good.
You interviewed him?
Well, I asked him some pretty tough questions.
So that was a yes or no?
No, just
Oh.
wanted to, I was just trying to understand the knowledge base.
Tonight you asked him. Okay, yeah. You picked up some of the questions that I was going to, but that's all right.
Thank you, Ms. DeWald.
Thank you. First, I wanted to share an experience I had the other week driving home from wherever and driving through North College Hill. It was a beautiful day. There was the clearest sky. There were people walking their dogs. There were people on bicycles, and this is in different parts of the city. There were kids playing. There were multi-generational families sitting on their porch just enjoying the weather. And I thought, man, why do people think North College Hill is such a bad place to live? It's just such a wonderful community. They just don't see that. But it was very heartwarming. And I just wanted to share that because it's like it brought joy. And in my little community where we live, 2 or 3 streets over there, we all love North College Hill. So, and then the other thing I wanted to touch on too was that I was able to attend the rededication for Wise Park. I happened to drive by it the night before. Miss Zorb had contacted me and said, guess what, it flooded. But I know she contacted Carolyn Johnson and stuff. But that evening, it was probably about 9 o'clock, there was Dan Brooks and some other folks working the property over there, getting it ready for the next day. And I do have to say it was extremely presentable. A big boost to our city's ego. Mr. Ed Lloyd gave a presentation about the history of Isaac Walton and some of his family members. It was quite lengthy, but it was too much to remember, but too much not to know. So he sent me an email of his speech. So if anybody wants to read that, I'll forward it onto your email. But he was incredible. So anyway, that's what I have. Just my little love for North College Hill. Oh, and welcome back.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to say welcome back to Mayor Nichols. It's good to see you happy and healthy and hot. I would also like to offer my most sincere condolences to Chief Ryan Schrand on the loss of his mom. I know that cannot be an easy thing to deal with, so just wanted to let him know that he has, anything he needs, not anything, but, anything I can do to help out, certainly I'll try to do that. Also, I would like to say thank you to everyone who took part in the rededication and kind of putting together Wise Park. I was there for most of the ceremony yesterday, and the park was just extremely, extremely beautiful. Just really nice to see that in our city. And I would also like to take an opportunity to say congratulations to Cheryl Long. So I know Cheryl and her family very well. She has a beautiful family. She's humble, she's grounded. She is the former city administrator for North College Hill. And that was when, I would bring my children to the meetings here to show them how small city government worked. And I wasn't always proud of what I saw, but I told them that this is what government is. They were, of course, mortified, but she did her thing and she glowed up. So I am so very proud of you, Cheryl, if you're listening. And I would like to say congratulations on becoming the youngest city manager of the city of Cincinnati. And that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood. Ms. Alexander.
I would also like to offer my condolences to Chief Tran on the passing of his mother. I can't imagine, you know, what that feels like. A mother's love is just, you know, just something that you just can't take for granted, and I'm offering my condolences. I'd like to welcome the mayor back. It's been different with not having you here, and I'm just welcome, you know, glad that you're back and you're healthy and you're here with your reports and everything, and thanks for being here. I would also like to congratulate Cheryl Long. Great family. My kids, you know, went to school with her kids, and it was just great seeing her, you know, go from government here to Cincinnati. And she just handles everything with grace and with gratitude, and I'm sure she'll do an awesome job. I would also like to thank the Jewish Federation and everyone who was involved in the rededication of Isaac Wise, the park. And I would also like to thank the family for sharing his legacy with us. I didn't know much about Isaac Wise, but it was just, you know, such a great thing just listening to all the speakers, and it filled me with pride as well. I had my daughter with me. I brought her to the rededication, so I know she's going to go to school tomorrow and give her synopsis of her, you know, going to a rededication of such a wonderful individual who had an impact on, you know, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zorb?
Hi, I had my list of things I wanted to talk about. So actually on there was to request that we meet the economic director. So thank you. You were ahead of me on that one. The other thing I have on here is, Mr. Mosby, I saw a notice today that the opioid settlement email, there was a blast that went out, and it says that you must respond to that in order to get funding. I wanted to make sure that that was on your radar, to make sure that we can get some opioid settlement money. And also, I was curious, has the public works supervisor job posting been advertised anywhere other than the website? I looked on Indeed, Monster, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn, and I didn't find it on any of those. So
It has been out. I will be doing some interviewing this week. So,
could you let me know where it was posted?
well, we have it on our website. There, I believe I put it out on LinkedIn.
I didn't see it.
I'll have to go back and look at the other places. So I don't have them all off the top of my head right now.
Okay, because like I said, I searched Indeed, Monster, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn, all of them today, and I could not find it on any of them. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Zorb. Ms. Blythe?
No comment at this time, but it's very hot in here.
Agreed. Ms. Anderson?
All right, I got my long list. Okay, first I would also like to give my condolences to Chief Tran. I know he and I haven't always seen eye to eye, but I cannot imagine what he's going through, and I just really hope the best for him, and all of my best wishes go out to him and his family right now. I was also able to attend the Wise Park rededication. It was wonderful. It was great. Like I said, I want to make sure that that Ms. Clear gets all the appreciation that she deserves. I know how much she does for the city, and I want her to stay. So I'm going to make sure she feels appreciated as much as I can. But also I want to say thank you to everybody else who was involved, because I know that was not a one-man show. That was a lot of great organizations and great people coming together. I also want to say how sorry I feel for all of our seniors in our city right now. Judy White, who I know is watching because she always does. I love that woman, and she is heartbroken about the senior center closing, and I'm heartbroken for her. She and other people like her deserve something in our city for them We don't want them on the streets causing havoc, guys. But really, no, they really do deserve it. And she's a wonderful woman, and I want her to have her social life. And I know she's a shining star in that senior center, and I hope it comes back for her and for all of the other seniors. And she'll love that I gave her a shout out tonight. I know I'll hear from her. I also want to give a special shout out to our public works, our fire, and our police. I don't know if you guys have been, so I have a coworker who lives in College Hill, and like once a day it feels like she comes in and goes, "Did you hear about blah 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 on blah 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 street? And I saw, North College Hill police there, and oh my gosh, what happened? And I saw the fire there." And I just feel like they've been busier than ever recently. And I just know how much work they're putting in. We had our task force meeting at the firehouse, and I don't think that those firefighters ever sat down. Like they're always moving and doing something. And so I want to make sure that the public works, the police, and our firefighters feel appreciated. I've seen how much work they've been doing. And also, special shout out to one of our citizens. There's been a man going around, I can try to find his name really quickly, picking up trash.
Mr. Blake, Sean Michael Blake.
I'm sorry?
His name is Sean Blake.
Thank you, Sean. He has been going around and picking up trash around our entire city. And he's been posting about it, not to brag, but to make other people aware and to make other people, feel passionate and want to go out and do it too. He has a GoFundMe, and I would hope that the city, he wouldn't have to be buying trash bags for all this. I would hope that the city could kind of step in and maybe donate a few trash bags here or there. But he does have a GoFundMe if you want to donate to him. He always posts where he's out, and if you want to go out and help him as well. I know a few other citizens have gone out and helped him as well. And I just think that's so awesome. And the grassroots movement that he's starting, I think those are the things that we need to praise in our city. It wasn't the government that went in and decided they were going to do something. It was a citizen who saw an issue and he went for it, and he's fixing it, and he's not complaining and whining. He's just going to fix it. And not that he should have to. We shouldn't have that much trash on the ground, but I'm glad that we have citizens who care about our city. All right, that's the end of my long. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. One more thing. The Fall Festival. I'm so sorry. The Fall Festival, Miss Clear is planning now the Fall Festival, and she started advertising for it. There's information about it on the website. It's going to be October 1st. And so far it looks awesome, and there's room for vendors and craft makers and food trucks and all that jazz. So I'm really excited for that, too. Okay, I promise that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. All right, we moved remarks from the audience, but there's no one here. So next we need to go into an executive session for the purpose of discussing the purchase, sale, or leasing of real estate.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
could I add to that to talk about personnel?
Is that going to make it twice as long?
No, I'd like to make a motion to add personnel to the executive session.
Would you like to just make the motion for the executive session?
I'll make a motion for the executive session.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Blythe?
can we take a break before executive session? And then I wanted to ask one question. We've sat in the administrative office before. Is it possible for us to sit in there for executive session? I think there's air conditioning in there.
All right, I have a motion to go into executive session for the purchase, for the purpose of discussing purchase, sale, or leasing of real estate and personnel.
Mr. President.
That's
Anderson.
Ms. Anderson.
I'll second that.
I don't think that's the right word.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Ms. Underwood?
I would just like to remind everyone that not all of us are comfortable in this tropic environment. So if we would keep our comments brief during the executive session.
We're going to go into the air conditioning during executive session.
Greatly appreciate
Mr. President. Can we still be brief?
All right, we have motion by Ms. DeWald to go into executive session. The second is by Ms. Anderson. Please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed, 7-0.
Did we agree on a break or no?
Yeah. bring this meeting back into session. And we're up to legislation.
I was excited.
Do you want me to
Yeah,
rewrite
will
this,
you please
President?
read them? Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Second reading resolution number 14, 2022, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with the Neiman for the purpose of improvements, repair, and construction of Marshall Peter Dumley Park.
Next legislation.
Second reading resolution number 15, 2022, a resolution to authorize the city administrator to execute a collective bargaining agreement between the city of North College Hill and the full-time North College Hill Firefighter Bargaining Unit, IAFF Local 5279. Excuse me.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I move that we suspend the third reading for resolution number 15-2022.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I second that.
Motion to suspend third reading for resolution number 15, 2022 by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. DeWald. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 15, 2022.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I'll second that.
Motion from Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Underwood to adopt resolution 15-2022. Any discussion? Please call the roll, sir.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next item of legislation.
Second reading, number 16, 2022, a resolution to authorize the city administrator to execute a collective bargaining agreement between the city of North College Hill and the part-time North College Hill Police Officers Bargaining Unit, FOPOCI.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I move that we suspend the third reading for resolution number 16-2022.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I'll second that.
Motion from Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. DeWald to suspend the third reading for resolution 16, 2022. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I make a motion to adopt.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I'll second that.
Motion to adopt resolution 16, 2022 by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Underwood. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next item of legislation.
Second reading, ordinance number 6, 2022, an ordinance to authorize a supplemental pay to LaWanda Willis for finance manager duties.
Next item.
Second reading, ordinance number 07, 2022, an ordinance to approve current replacement pages to the North College Hill codified ordinances and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I move to suspend the third reading.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion by Ms. DeWald to suspend third reading on ordinance 7, 2022, second by Ms. Underwood. Any discussion?
Mr.
Mr.
President,
Who was first?
Go ahead.
I'm just curious what the rush is.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
Actually, there's no need to have it linger. I mean, it's stuff that's done all the time. It's stuff that needs to be done. It really doesn't affect our budget. It's just information that comes back to us, and the clerk puts it in the book and updates the ordinances.
Mr. President,
Um,
just,
Ms.
Go-
Dukes,
you
I'm
can
sorry.
go ahead. Maybe
Okay.
he answered
Mr.
my
Mosby.
question.
so I just wanted to add also to what Mr. Wall said. Obviously, the sooner that we get it in our codified ordinances, the more current our codified ordinances will be.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein, were you good then?
Stuff that's already passed.
Mr. President, I'm not familiar. What is that one?
Replacement plate, so we have the book with all of the codified ordinances in it, and which committee ran through all of this?
What happens is every year, our law company, they take all of the ordinances and things that are passed, and particularly those that would affect our code. They take all of those, codify them to make sure that they are proper for inclusion into our code, and then they send us back several copies of that. And those copies need to go into, and it is a formal procedure, but those copies then need to go into our codified ordinances to update them. And so it has to be accepted by council, and then at that point, then they can be included into the codified ordinances.
Ms. Underwood?
what is the difference between ordinance number 7 and ordinance number 8? The language appears to be exactly the same.
Mr. President?
Mr. Mosby?
So one was a prior year, one was 2021, I believe, and then I think the most recent one is 2022. So there's two different ordinances because of two different years.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion to suspend third reading ordinance 7, 2022 by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Underwood. Please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
No.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I move that we adopt ordinance 7-2022.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. DeWald, to adopt ordinance 7, 2022. Any further discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Last piece of legislation, please.
Second reading ordinance number 8, 2022, an ordinance to approve current replacement pages to the North College Hill codified ordinances and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I make a motion to suspend.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
Motion to suspend third reading for ordinance 8, 2022 by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Underwood. Discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I would just like to make my continued argument that this is not an emergency for us to pass and suspend readings according to our laws. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Motion by Ms. DeWald, second by Ms. Underwood to suspend third reading ordinance 8, 2022. Please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
No.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
I make a motion to adopt.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that.
Just get it.
Motion to adopt ordinance 8, 2022 by Ms. DeWald. Second by Ms. Underwood. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next is further remarks from the audience. There will be none. Move to old business.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I don't know if it falls under old or new, but I believe we are still not full on our committee assignments. believe we do not have an OKI representative, and not to put Miss Alexander on the spot, but I'm not sure that she has committed to her to.
I'm committed to
I'm the
finance,
OKI.
finance and recreation.
So
Those are the committees.
Ms. DeWald is on OKI.
Okay.
She says she is, and I believe we did vote on that.
Well,
Correct.
Mr.
Alright.
President,
Ms. Anderson.
I'd like to make a motion to add Councilwoman Alexander to both Budget and Finance Committee and City Community Development and Recreation.
I'll
Mr.
second that.
President, I'll second that. Oh, whoever.
Ms. Zorb, did you say something?
I tried to sneak in a second.
So
I forgot
you're
to-
admitting,
I
you're
forgot
admitting
to
that?
address you, and I just said.
I am gonna give it to Ms. Underwood. I just wanted to make sure that that was,
I skirted the,
Ms.
yep,
Rule follower.
well,
motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Underwood, to add
There's
Ms.
rules
Alexander
and there's
to, which ones?
Budget and Finance.
Budget and
Finance.
Recreation?
And then City Community Development and
Yes.
Recreation.
Any discussion?
Welcome aboard.
All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
my life has opened up a little bit, so I'd like to be put on the laws and rules and public, what's it called?
Public safety.
Public safety.
Laws and rules.
Just that when I show up, I have a voice.
Mr.
Rules and
President,
public policy.
Ms. Anderson?
was that a motion or should I
That was
make
a motion. I make a motion to put myself on those committees.
Okay, I'll second the motion to put her on Rules and Public Policy and Public Safety Committee.
Yeah, I didn't have enough papers printed
Yeah.
tonight,
Yeah,
because my printer wouldn't work.
I think it's that one, right?
All right, motion from Ms. DeWald and second from Ms. Anderson to add Ms. DeWald to Public Safety and the Rules and Public Policy Committees. Please call the roll.
Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein,
I make a motion to adjourn.
No.
can't do that yet.
Oh.
Mr. Hedger, can you, I'll hold that till the time. Can you provide us with the current list for our next meeting of who's on all of our ad hoc committees and all the committee assignments? I mean, Ms. DeWald used to do that for me.
Part of the job. Part of the
I'll
job.
be sending a email out to everyone for everyone's current activities.
Okay.
Yep, that's the way to do it.
There's a form
right.
already in there,
A form where?
in your,
She'll show
unless
you.
you wiped it out.
I'll send an email.
All right, next is new business. So I have two pieces of legislation I'm going to be sending to committee. One is for the funding of the work on Hamilton Avenue. I'm going to send that to Budget and Finance. So if you can get that on your agenda for your next meeting, I will forward that to you tonight. And then the other part is legislation requiring minimum square footage for residential structure. This will require a public hearing. I'm going to send that to Rules and Public Policy. So we can
Alrighty.
probably, we'll have plenty of time to put up the notice to make that meeting a public hearing, correct?
Mr. President.
Ms. Anderson?
So from the Code Enforcement Task Force, there are two pieces of legislation that we've kind of already come up with that need to be handled sort of immediately. One of them has to do with adding a line item. So I had sent an email to Ms. Dukestein asking that she put that on her agenda, but I should have gone through you because I know that that's the formal procedure. So is that okay that that's put onto Budget Finance? Okay. And the second thing was repealing a code that leaves for a lot of loopholes. And I know that that would be more Rules and Public Policy, but since Rules and Public Policy hasn't been meeting very often, Would it be okay if I keep that on City Community Development and Recreation?
I have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Next time
President,
I'll go through, I'm sorry.
Ms. Blythe?
I just had a question regarding the new business. This legislation that require minimum square footage, is this for any future buildings? Because I would imagine that maybe late 1800s, early 1900s, houses would have been much smaller. So is this for future building of residential houses?
Mr. Mosby?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, that is correct. And it all, ooh, I'm sorry. It also means that any currently existing houses are grandfathered in, which means that if they do not meet the minimum requirements, even though the rule changes, we don't make them change the square footage for their
Okay,
house.
thank you.
Any other new business?
Mr. President?
Ms. Zorb?
Just a kind of a follow-up to that. I presume that this has already gone through, like, zoning commission or some other entity?
It had gone through Planning Commission actually in 2018, I believe, but for some reason it never, we don't know why, it just never passed through council.
Any other new business?
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion for Ms. Dukestein to adjourn. Ms. Zorb.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Ms. Zorb. Please call the roll. When you're ready.
Sorry. Who did that? Sorry, I did not
Ms.
catch that.
Dukestein made the motion. Ms. Zorb seconded it.
Thank you. Dukestein,
Yes.
DeWald,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
Zorb,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed, 7-0.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.